everybody. I want to thank to SFS24 for hosting us one of the best cities in the world, which is 3,000 years old. And I have very, very nice guests. And I think that we have lots of common. So please feel free to ask questions to each other. But this is how would I like to start with Carolina. So the main thing that I want to talk about is what are you doing as Samba Digital? And I want to look at how does you working with clubs, individual athletes and other sports. So give us a little bit about Samba Digital.
Yeah. So morning everyone, thanks for being here, even if we are the first one and it's kind of like early in the morning. So may I ask maybe to the audience how many people have heard about Samba Digital? If you can raise your hand.
Lots of people.
Yeah, we still need to work a little bit on our brand awareness. So, yeah, basically, I would start saying that we are an international sport agency. We work with sports rights holders all around the world. Our clients are mainly in football industry, but we work also in tennis, basketball, and rugby, for example. So let me say that like the globalization that is actually the topic of this panel is our main goal for clubs. So we basically support our client on developing their brand around the world. So it could be in several ways. So it could be like running their communication in different languages or organizing like out-of-home campaign in different cities. So we usually start from communication because, like, you know, when you want to reach a new market, it's really nice that you speak the language of people living there. And one of our main goals is really to respect the culture of people. So when you are a football club in Italy or in Europe and you have fun like in South America, in United States, you need really to understand them. So that's our main goal, understand the people we want to talk to. And this is always our first point. And then from there, we usually like build up the relationship, and we have some other services like influencers involvement, on-site campaign, on-site activation, watch parties. So it's not only about communication, but it's really about engagement all over the world.
Yes, this is about engagement. But there is 433, so reach 150 million people in social media last week. So I am sure it's much more this week. How did the first idea come up to make the football content as 433? And how did you manage to reach this amount of people?
Good question. Let me firstly start with who is familiar with 43 as well.
That's not fair.
It's much more.
No. Who's following 43? Okay.
Yeah, you should follow.
Yeah, you should follow. No, a lot of people are following. That's great to see. So yeah, we started the company started 11 years ago by a couple of founders, and one of them was the former pro football player Demi de Zeeuw from the Netherlands. He was playing for Ajax. He was in the Dutch squad, reaching the finals in the FIFA World Cup, and he was thinking, what should I do next after my professional career? And he, well, kind of disliked the way old-fashioned media were approaching the players. Most of the times from a critical perspective, a lot of gossip, a lot of negative news. And he was thinking like, no, we should enjoy the beautiful game together. We should show the positive side of football and connect people over this beautiful game. And that's what he did with the other founders. He always showed the positive side of football in a very personal way. And that caught the attention on Instagram. They were one of the first movers on Instagram, so they grew very, very quickly. And at that time, I was working at Endemol as the head of digital, doing everything in the Netherlands for ESPN. And I saw this account, 43, and I thought, well, this is amazing how they create content. And then I started working there as the operations director to help building the team, building the brand. And how we grew it further was to develop our brand and get a really personal connection with our audience. And within our audience, we have the Sunday League players, the amateur football players, where we have a connection with because they have a chance to get their 15 seconds of fame by submitting content, and we pick the right videos and we show them to our audience, and they can become a viral thing. And aside from that, we also have the star players that are following us, so we're constantly in contact with them and creating content with them in a way that they like it as well. So when we're at media days, they love to create content with us, and you can see that when we capture that in a video, and that creates a lot of viral content on 43.
Thank you very much. By the way, this is a very, very impressive success story, I think. So, Nicole, Pike from YouGov. What are you doing as YouGov? And what is your relationship with the football, with the other sports? So give us a little bit about YouGov, please.
Sure. So now I feel a little bit of pressure to ask the same question everyone else did. So who here has heard of YouGov? Okay, good. If you haven't, my friends here will talk to you about us later, I'm sure. So YouGov is a global data and analytics company, and really our goal is to bring the voice of the consumer to our clients. I lead our global sport division, so what that means for the sports, leagues, rights holders, teams, brands, and media companies that we work with is helping them to understand who their fans are, who their potential fans are, and how they can really have an ongoing conversation with them and better understand what they want, what they need, how they're evolving, and how to monetize that through partnerships, sponsorship opportunities, et cetera. So how we're working with the different organizations, hopefully some in the room today, are really allowing them to leverage the data that comes from our consumer panel of millions across the world to better understand, for example, how does the Serie A fan in Italy compare to the Serie A fan everywhere else around the world? Where are the areas and markets where football is growing and why, and how are consumers across all the different leagues, teams, et cetera, are engaging with content and with those leagues, and what do they expect out of them moving forward?
So I'm going to go back to Carolina. So I wrote a book about how football made itself as a global culture and makes everybody in a very same way of love that I'm calling football as a love. But I also know that fans don't behave in the way we expect. And when it comes to engagements, for instance, you might prepare a song for fans, but they're going to be taking another song from what is popular. So all the song you made effort is gone. So it's very hard thing to engage with these people. So what do you do to adapt to your content to engaging with the people? So because it's maybe the most difficult thing in the world, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is, but let me say that as well. I think that Luca might agree with that. It's also the great part of our job, no? Like this little feeling when you are going to launch a campaign and say, what if they don't like it? like we work on that for many, many days, and what if they don't like it? But let me say that we of course don't have a recipe for this. What we do is basically study a lot, research a lot, be in line with trends, and what we do with our clients is like create a really customized approach, both for the client but also for the market they want to eat, because like what people in the US like, it's different from what in China like. So it's really a matter of being very, very personalized, and actually fun drive the success of the campaign, because at the end we will all check like how many likes did we get, the engagement. These are the KPIs we work with in digital especially. So they are kind of like deciding if the campaign was great or not. What you can do, and it's something that at Samba we do a lot, is like test, so try. There is nothing bad if a campaign doesn't run as it's supposed to do. But sometimes maybe you could be surprised about, like, you didn't expect that result. Maybe a content that you prepare in 3 days goes viral. So we do not actually decide about the engagement. Fans decide. But you are right saying that behind everything there is the love of football. And this is what, of course, we all want to promote. We don't want to promote some bad parts of football that unfortunately sometimes happen, as like violence or racism. For us, is a matter of like, I want to know who I'm talking to, and I want to create for you the best content. Also because if you think about the digital ecosystem right now, we can find how many content we can find on Instagram. Like if you open your Instagram page 10 times during a day, you will find like 10 times different content. So people are never really amazed, are very hard to get impressed. So this is what we stand for. This is how like we work for it basically, like to try to find what really impress people. And we need to think in different ways when it comes to globalization, when it comes to new markets. So this is what we try to do with our people that are spread all over the world. So we really want to know the culture. We really want to celebrate different days. So that's where we find the success of our content.
So our main topic is globalization in football. And I'm going to ask Lucas, so you have this content, and this content is going to United States, Brazil, Turkey, Tokyo, Australia, very different kind of people. So how can you prepare this content for these different cultures, and how can you make this content process? How do you consider these kinds of people and make them to like the same thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question after what Carolina says about the personalization. What I totally get, and what we're doing with our app now as well. So we have our own platform these days, and that's where we can personalize things way more for specific audiences. But on our social media, we bring content for the global audience. That's correct. Yeah, we see ourselves as the biggest digital locker room in the world, and I think in this digital locker room we speak the same language. If you're an amateur football player, if you're a pro player, well, as you are saying, one love. We all love this game, and we all know what's connected to this. So that's football, but also everything that's connected to the locker room, which can be lifestyle, music, gaming, and we're always looking for trends as well to connect this global audience, and that works very well for us. And I agree with Carolina that it's every time you have to find this new angle, you have to find this new trend. Do they like it? And well, that's kind of the fun of the game as well, to bring your best. And that for us that works to this global audience. Yeah.
Of course, 150 million people is huge. As Comparisonator, we are working with numbers, so we are lucky because everybody knows the numbers. But I'm going to ask to one of the maybe people in the world knows the answer. So from Singapore to England to United States, the same question. But are we close to each other when it comes to sports and football, or are there any big differences between us?
Yeah, great question. And I would say if there weren't differences, I probably wouldn't have a job. So there definitely are. But I think there are some really underlying themes that we see in our data of why people are fans of sport, regardless of what sport it is and where they are around the world. So there's the excitement of sport, there's the tradition either from your family or your country, there's the desire to see the best players and the best of any particular competition. There's a social and friend component, and for many people there's a connection to them playing at some point in their lives. So if you think about those 5 different factors, what we see is when you look at different countries, different fan types, or different sports, the mix of which of those is more important than the other is very different, as well as, of course, the trajectory of how those sports have evolved over time. So if you take the UK versus the US as an example and look at football, yes, those 5 components I mentioned play into fandom in some way, shape, or form, but very different in terms of, for example, the history of football in the UK versus the US. And then, for example, in the US, the social factor, my friends tell me about it, et cetera, is something that's really driving growth in our country for football right now. So it's really the mix and the dynamic of those different things that plays into. So it's a little bit of both. There's the undercurrent of everyone being able to rally around and the different components that play into that love we were talking about, but then also it's important for whether we're creating content or trying to speak to those fans in a different way, understanding what those differences are around the world so that you don't just have one global campaign or approach to try to go out and expand audiences or speak to them.
So I'm going to ask my last questions, and I think we are running out of time. So, but Carolina, I want to ask you, give me a very exciting and unique projects of Samba Digital. Let's hear the most impressive one.
I think, allow me to say, I'm not saying because some of my clients are here in the audience, but actually I'm very lucky because our clients are really the top in class. I would maybe bring an example that it's a little bit different from the football industry. I think that we really smashed it with the Kansas City Chiefs, the winner of the last 2 Super Bowl, on becoming impressive and in Mexico. So when we started to work with them in November 2022, they had 15K followers on the Spanish account, and they were the 5th in the NFL in terms of audience and engagement. After 1 year, they now are around 90K, and they are so far the first one with more than double of from the second one. So I think that there we really smash it because we follow a proper process. Like we started with communication, and then we proceed with engagement on site. And of course, not saying that because Nicole is here, but data always run our decisions. So for us, it's really, really important to start from data, to start from knowledge and build from there. So I think that in that case, they follow the full process, and that's where the success comes. Because sometimes, I know that revenues drive all our life. We probably all deal with revenue sooner or later in our job, but sometimes maybe clubs tell me oh yeah, we cannot invest in that territory because we need to have revenues before. But if you don't have the platform, if you don't have the people to talk to, you cannot really drive the value for your sponsors. So for me, this is the process, and with the Chief, we actually made it, and I can say that it was really successful.
Okay, Lucas, how 433 impact the global growth of clubs and leagues and brands? How do you make the partnerships to engage in global footballization?
Yeah, we see ourselves in the sweet spot of that. So you have the clubs and the leagues, and for the clubs and the leagues, there's an enormous opportunity for growth in new markets, like the US is becoming a really important growth market for a lot of clubs and leagues. The Arabian market is very important to a lot of them. And as I said before, we know how to speak to a global audience, and that really can help them to get awareness in new markets, and especially to the young audience. So we 86% of our audience is under the age of 34. So, and we know exactly how to connect with them in an authentic way. And that's what we do with the clubs and the leagues, and also with the brands. We see a lot of brands, they are sponsor of a club or a league or a certain tournament. I think a great example is Turkish Airlines. They were a seasonal sponsor for 2 years of the Champions League, and then they want to activate that asset to a younger audience. And then we can connect them by bringing one of our hosts from one Champions League match to the other by the plane of Turkish Airlines, and really create compelling content in an authentic way. So our audience really likes the content, sees Turkish Airlines in a fun way, and bring new customers to them. And that's how we connect with the clubs, leagues, and brands, and bring them to the fans we have in our community. As you said, we have over 115 million followers on our social media accounts, generating over 6 billion impressions each month. And now we bring them to our own app, where we can personalize content and bring a new layer of in-depth content and personalize that, and make it more specific for certain audiences. And that's how we do it.
Okay, let's download the app, okay? And my last question to Nicole Pike. Regarding this research in football, are there any interesting facts that you can share with us?
Sure, I could go on for days, but I'll just highlight one so that the next panel can get on. One thing that we're really seeing among newer and younger fans in football all around the world is the importance of the personalities and the players in terms of which teams they decide to become fans of, or, and I know this is like sacrilege for many in Europe, which teams they switch to become fans of. So we see that younger fans they see and interact with footballers through social media, and they are personalities and celebrities to them, and they, in many cases, become fans of them first, and then follow what team they're on, what league they're in, etc. And when that happens, that means there's a lot more opportunity for switching back and forth of fandom. One great example that's relevant to this market that I'll kind of use to end on is Christian Pulisic moving to AC Milan. We saw within the first 2 months of that move, US fandom of AC Milan increased 50%. Chelsea dropped off at the same time, and US football fans following of Serie A increased 27%, just within 2 months, just with that one player switching. So the importance and power of those players is a huge trend that we see, and it's great if you have the players, but you also have to kind of keep in mind and execute against the fact that they may, if a player leaves, then your fandom may leave as well. So thinking about how once you bring a player into your team or your fan base, that you really think about how to cultivate the broader team proposition and fandom with those fans so that they stay longer term.
We can talk again like a day, but our time is up. So thank you very much for listening us, and thank you very much for sharing these very important information with all the people who are attending to SFS. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Didem, also for the timing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Goodbye. Enjoy the summit. And thank